Alright, this is going to be part 2 of my boss ranking for all the bosses of Devil May Cry 5. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, I'm going to put a link to that in the description. I highly recommend watching it. And without further ado, let's get started.
Hey, douchebag. Miss me?
You've come here to
Alright, and to start
die.
off the second part on our
He
list
does.
is going to be...
Urizen, huh?
I couldn't decide
I bet your
between
parents
which of
didn't
these
like
fights
him
was
much.
better, so I ranked them
Guess your name
together.
sucks.
It's going to be the first two Urizen fights, with the one where he's in the chair, and the first standing fight. And I have to say, these fights are really similar as well, where you basically destroy Crystal before you can melt down his health. And I really like the varied moves he uses in both these fights, like his ball shooting attack, his freeze bubble, the Crystal doing damage to you if you're too close to it for too long, and also the flames he spawns from the floor. And I might consider giving like the standing one an edge, since he does have a few more attacks in this, like his tentacles that like track you down, and his spin attack that I think is pretty cool, where like sitting Urizen just lets you beat him down with no resistance after you explode the crystal. But at the same time, I do like the free time you get to get in some combos in sitting Urizen because he doesn't pose like any resistance. So again, I'm not sure if I could rank either of these two guys ahead of each other, so I'm just ranking them together. Next up on the list, though, is the Urizen fight that I had no trouble putting above the other two, which is going to be the Urizen Final Form fight. And I have to say this fight is really fun since it's one of the more difficult fights in the game, especially in Dante Must Die, where it's just so hard to get down his health bar when he's constantly attacking you when his double trigger activates. And I have to say, I like how he starts kind of passive, but he gets more aggressive as the fight goes on. And also, I have to say, Spike Attack is just so cool, where he summons all the spikes out of the ground. I just think it looks so good. And on a side note, I really wish it was part of Vergil's moveset, like World of V, where it just be called like World of Urizen, where he just summons the spikes out of the ground. And also, I think his freeze time bubbles are very dangerous. And the knives he shoot as well. I think dodging these attacks is pretty fun. And also his kicks and punches, I like how they start off kind of easy to dodge, but towards the end of the fight he makes very difficult to dodge like charges that I think are really cool. And I have to say, these attacks, along with him combining attacks from like the previous two fights, definitely cement his high spot in the list.
Leave at once. Only kings of the underworld may enter these gates.
Looks like your master's got you on a pretty short leash. Come on, little puppy. I'll take you out for a walk. Come on, let's go.
Okay, now that the Urizen's out of the way, we reach our final four. And to kick us off in fourth place for these last bosses is going to be the tankiest boss, the biggest pooch in the litter himself. Give it up for Cerberus. And I have to say, I love all three of his elemental phases. From like dodging his aggressive fire phase, dodging icicles from the sky in his ice phase, and that beam attack he makes, and also the crystals falling from the sky doing some serious damage, and also dodging his long range lightning attacks. And also, I do love the explosion he makes in between switching phases. It makes it so you either have to tactically retreat, or either like dodge at the perfect time or use Royal Guard. And also, his paw attacks are pretty fun to dodge. I like that he can adapt, basically hitting you higher in the air if you're trying to do some air attacks on him. And they're also really fun to like, if you're Dante, to Royal Guard them. I'm not that good with Royal Guard, but I found it super fun when he got the timing just right. And also, I like his charge attack where he just like comes towards you like charging really fast. Even though it's easy to dodge, I still think it's pretty fun every time. And also, again, like going back to his tankiness, I really like that he has a lot of health, which means you get to experience this fight for a decent amount of time, which is pretty fun. I will say though, like if you really are speedrunning it with like taking advantage of his each of his heads having their own hitbox, that does take away from his tankiness. But I kind of like that that's there because it gives you an option if you want to speedrun the fight. That makes his health not as much as a factor. That's really all I have to say about him. I think in any other game, he'd definitely be like in contention for being the top boss, but in this game, he's just number 4.
Is it Halloween already? That costume looks a little big. I thought you had better taste than that.
All right, coming in at the number 3 spot, we have the best boss to parry. Give it up for Cavaliere Angelo. This guy I feel like is super fun to fight for all the characters, which is just awesome. Like I think Roguard and Trickster are super fun to use with Dante, and also using Gunslinger when he's charging up his sword with the double Kalina at and using that charge attack is just super cool in this fight. And also, I really like pairing him with all 3 of Vergil's weapons. I think the timing for all of them is so cool. And of course, using all of Vergil's most powerful attacks, like Hell on Earth and Judgment Cut End, is fun. And it's really cool, as it always is, of course. But I just think against Cavalier, it's one of the best fights to use all of these moves. And with Nero, of course, pairing him for Red Queen is fun, especially if you get the Exceed timing right. And V against him is also a solid fight. Although I'm not that good with V, so I can't really speak that much for that. And also, I like how he has to charge up his sword like Nero. It adds a little bit of complexity to this fight. And I like the fact that he has to charge it up and over like a long animation, which gives you a good time to put in some charge attacks and get a decent amount of damage on him. But I like that he kind of has a massive shock attack that deals a ton of damage if you're not careful, which definitely adds some challenge to this fight. And speaking of challenge, I feel like he's like perfectly balanced. I feel like his attacks just do enough damage to make this fight not ridiculously hard, but it does make it hard, which overall I think make this is a really strong boss fight. And I think really in any other game, I think Cavalier would definitely be in contention to be either the top boss or a very close second. And the fact that he's just the third best boss in this game is just really impressive.
That was a long time ago.
I guess you were young once too. As much as I'd love to hear that story, I think it's about time we
ended this.
Alright, of course there's only 2 bosses that could possibly be better than Cavaliere Angelo. And you probably could have predicted these 2 would be the last ones to be in the list to be ranked. But ultimately I had to put one over the other for the Sparta twins. And I have to say, I like Vergil better than Dante. And I did this mostly because I don't think Dante's as well balanced as Vergil. For example, like his Rainstorm attack, which really isn't supposed to do that much damage when you use it, like when you play as Dante, does a ridiculous amount of damage in this fight. Which I mean, like it literally says in the menu that it's not supposed to do that much damage, but in the boss fight, like Dante Must Die, it just drains like half your health bar. That being said, though, that's really my only complaint about Dante. Like, I feel like all of his weapons and styles and the way he switches between them makes him like really a good fight. And you always have to prepare when he switches things up. Like he can just like pull Roguard out of nowhere and basically like drain like half your health bar, which I think is really fun. And Sin Devil Trigger in the second fight, I absolutely love countering it. Especially Judgment, I think is so cool to counter instead of you doing it as Dante. It's so fun to just see it on your end. It can do some serious damage if you're not careful. And also, when he goes in the air for his laser barrage, it takes like a few seconds for him to do it, and you can even like use Judgment Cut End like before he shoots it to like stop it. But I find it just so cool to dodge, and that's probably the one thing I could say that I think that's one of my favorite moves to dodge in the game. And on a side note, I really wish it was possible to fight Dante with like all the characters, like V, Vergil, and even Dante himself. And of course, on PC, this really isn't a problem for you, but I happen to still be on PS4. But honestly, Capcom could really just add like a practice stage 102 for the Bloody Palace or a Secret Mission 21. Or maybe just release a super special edition of this game a few years later with Playable Lady and Trish as well. Just some ideas, Capcom. You like money, don't you? Alright, now we gotta get on to Vergil. All right, Vergil has got to be like my favorite boss in like any game ever. Like it's just like, of course he's the boss who's the most motivated, so that probably plays a factor. But I will say again, like I marginally consider him better than Dante. Like they're both like probably smoking sexy style bosses, but I do just barely prefer Vergil. Like I like just dodging like his encountering like his Mirage Blades or Summon Swords or whatever you like to call them. I think is really fun, especially when he does like the special moves with them, like when he summons them from the sky and you kind of have to dodge them with like Royal Guard or just get out of the way. I think that's pretty good. Also, who doesn't love Judgment Cut End? Speaking of which, I like how the timing of it like differs between difficulties, where you have a ridiculous amount of time on like Devil Hunter and Human difficulty, but Dante Must Die you get maybe like 2 seconds, or it might be less than that. Like it's just really fast. Also, his dive bomb's a really cool move, I think. And it just adds like a really nice change of pace to the fight where it kind of slows down a bit, but you still got to be careful and dodge him or he does like a stupid amount of damage. But I also like that you can also parry this move if you're really good. Like for example, like you can grab him with Nero's Buster, which I think is really cool. And this really rewards skilled play in this fight, which I just love. And also, I really like Doppelganger in this fight and like how he uses Sin Devil trigger. Like it's just I find it like really hard to like do damage to him like unless you do like special moves or like ranged attacks. And this makes this fight like really challenging, which I just love. Like the Sin Devil trigger really adds another element to this fight, and the Doppelganger gives you another person to dodge, which I just think is amazing. And also, I like the in the Nero version of this fight, I love like the Buster animation you get with him on the ground, where they just like clash with their swords. I just love that. That's all I really have to say for Vergil. He's just really well balanced, but he is very challenging, and just the quality of the fight is just ridiculous. Even with Dante or Nero, I haven't fought him with V ever, and also even fighting him with himself, like it's just super fun. And that's all I really have to say. All right, now all I really have is just my final thoughts. I'd just like to thank anybody who watched this video all the way. Like I really appreciate you. Like I put a lot of work into this video. It's really just a big passion project for me. I wrote most of the script like for the video like 6 months ago. About like I kind of fine tuned it like a few months later, and then I kind of finally got around to making the video, and I really had a fun time making it. It was a lot of work, but I just this is probably the best thing I've ever put on YouTube, and it's like one of the funnest things I've ever made in my life. And I have to say again, also, if you disagree with my opinions, like that's okay. Just let me know. Like maybe I don't know. Maybe you think like Gilgamesh is like the best boss ever, and maybe you strongly disagree with my takes. I just love to hear it if you do disagree, and if there's any way I can make any more future videos better, just let me know. I try to make this the best quality I possibly could, but this is my first video that I've really done like this. I'm literally just using my gaming headset to like talk, so I hope the audio sounds good enough for you. Well, sounded good enough for you, of course, watching the video. Since if you made it to this point, you've seen the whole thing, or just skipped to the end, which again I really appreciate. Like, I'd love to let you guys let me know what you want to see in the future, maybe. Because I'd love to do maybe like another boss ranking of another game, like maybe DMC4, or also I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I'd love to do maybe like Jedi Fallen Order, or maybe I could do like maybe Bloodborne, or like maybe Elden Ring when that comes out, or God of War. There's a few games that I don't really feel qualified for though, because like DMC, I put like hundreds of hours into this, where I feel qualified to make a boss ranking. Again, I really hope my takes are solid. Like I hope that I didn't do a bad job with this video, but yeah, again, thanks so much for watching, and I really hope this video is kind of successful because I did put a lot of work into it. But I mean, just the fact that the viewers who watched it just makes me like so happy, and I'm glad that I really hope some of you really liked the video. And yeah, I think that's really it. Also, let me know if you want me to rank maybe the bosses by like difficulty at some point. I know I used difficulty a little bit in this, even though it was based on quality, but I felt like difficulty kind of related to the quality. So, and some of the difficulty really makes me like the bosses. So, yeah, again, thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. It really makes me feel good. I mean, just to see like people really like wanting to stay for more for the channel. And that's all I have to say. All right. Have a good day, my fellow devil hunters.